All the viewers of the State of Affairs podcast, a very good evening to all of you. Today, I have got with me a very known face by now, someone who has recently got into the Indian Forest Service. Until yesterday, I got confused with this thing that is it IRS, is it something else? Because the technicalities within the IS thing is so much tough to understand. But then
There are around 21 services within UPSC
And
exam.
only yesterday, I got to know about it that he has been somebody who has got into the ICAS earlier in last year, and this year he has got into IFS, it's Indian Forest Services.
Yes.
Welcome. First of all, I would like to congratulate the speaker and try to introduce, if I could. I'll just fall short of words, being the person I'm talking to. But then,
Thank you.
Congratulations for your massive success this time around. He's somebody who hails
Thank you very much.
from Kupwara district, and he is from Jagarpura. Today we'll be talking about his journey in just 30-35 minutes. First of all, I would like to know from you, sir, how is it to go from ICAS into the IFS? How does the feeling like it be?
First of all, I have yet to be decide whether to go or not. I'm still in the discussion mode, but these are two different areas. I'm in Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure. Basically, we are doing the expenditure of the government of India on the behalf of government of India, and we will be a controller of the accounts. Right, we will be scrutinizing all the bills and everything, whether they are legit or not, irrespective of the people they are coming from. And it has a different role altogether. We in the later stage go into policy making. But forest being a field, but most of the time we will stay in the offices. But forest being a field job, there are diverse areas of work. We can go conservation, soil conservation, land biodiversity, then the people living within the forest area, the development there. So the field here in the forest is quite diverse to work about, and it is basically a field work, whereas ICS is just a daily based mostly, and to some extent in Srinagar if I get a chance to work with, but mostly in the office. So I am going into the discussions whether to join or not, but I have my own liking for the field job. So let's see how things go.
We hope that whatever the decision comes out, it will be like so much fine with you as a person and with us as a society you belong to. You are an inspiration. Most of the people do follow you for different reasons other than civil services also. I didn't know you earlier than this, except that last year I got to know that there is somebody with this name. Most of the students have been talking about that they have been chasing the wrong end of the strategy when it comes to the civil services. You tell us a bit about your schooling and after that your university or something like that, and how did you got into this?
Basically, up to primary fifth class, I studied in local town Handwara in a private school called New Millennium and other one. Then I moved to Srinagar in the upper primary from sixth onwards in new convent. Then in some 1 or 2 years for in SSM. Then I qualified AIEEE exam, but I didn't get required numbers to get my priority stream, that is civil engineering in NIT Srinagar. And somehow I wanted to go back to rest of the states other than the J&K. I wanted to explore that as well. So I went to Pune. In the very later, I joined Pune Bharatiya Vidyapith University for bachelor's. Then after bachelor's, I didn't know whether I should be going for civil services or not. I, for 1 year, went for GATE exam and I qualified GATE. Then I thought, I was directionless because there was no one around me to guide me what to do or what not to do. Then after qualifying GATE, I thought, okay, I'll do master's. Then what? It is not enough. GATE is in itself a difficult exam. I lost 1 year into that and I qualified that, but it doesn't have much remunerative jobs around, to be frank. So I thought to change my strategy after losing my year. And around in December or October 2017, I started preparing for civil services. For the optional, I chose PSIR as an optional, and I went for coaching for PSIR because it was not my domain. I had been taught in civil engineering in my bachelor's. So then onwards, within 3 to 5 months, luckily I qualified Jamia Millia Islamia entrance. It's a very tough entrance. Around 120 people are taken out of around 20 to 30,000. So luckily I could, because of in the essay I got one of the highest marks. So luckily it was sheer luck, maybe because I was very new into the civil services preparation, and highly unlikely that who are very fresh into the civil services they qualify this difficult exam. But destiny has its own part. So in Jamia, it's a different story altogether. There are more than a dozen, I would say 2-3 dozen students who are already into civil services. They want a rank improvement. They will help others who are the freshers how to study and what not to study. That I got the direction where to go. Rest before that, for 1.5 years, I was completely directionless. So I hope I try my best to all the viewers who get proper direction or what to do or what not to. And in the Jamia, in around 3 years, in the third attempt, 3.5 years because of the COVID, I could get a rank last year. And in the fourth year and the fourth attempt, I qualified Indian Forest Services. Why I qualified both exams? It's really difficult. In our district, there has been only one before me, Indian Forest Service officer, that too 30 years back. And in our state, in the last 4 years, I don't think so anyone has qualified IFS exam. So why I could do this, the thing goes that there were last year around 6 students qualified in forest services from JAM. There is an experience a lot there. They help others. They tell them what to do in prelims, what to do in maths. And others, actually, I studied just for 25 to 30 days for mains in the forest, because the other person who taught me had already given me once or twice in the forest services exam. It helped me a lot. So it was basically the environment of the Jamia and my little hard, intelligent work that helped me sail through. And this is all my journeys of the last 28 years, mostly. So
That's quite impressive and interesting, given the way our district and the educational setup that we have got, given the way it's in the remotest part of the country, and then also the exposure levels that you get in Delhi and back in Valley, and especially in Kupwara. I have reservations with the education system and the way it's progressing over the horizon. But then, to each his own. Now that the important part of the discussion is that what were your subjects and what was the thing that actually helped you a lot in the examinations, be it mains, be it prelims, or be that into the interview or personality test. What was that? What were the key areas that you focused upon?
it's a very around a half a dozen questions you are asking into one. First of all, in UPSC, my optional was PSIR, Political Science and International Relations. Being a Kashmiri, most of the people take PSIR because they have their likings. Politics around is quite diverse and dynamic, so it helps. We have a little tinge for that. So political science was my own choice. No one recommended it for me. And luckily it was a good choice for me. So I went for Subra Ranjan ma'am's classes. That helped me a lot. And her notes are very precise. Then I diversified my this for optional. Optional is the key in the civil services exam. Then I diversified the content. It does because everyone studies that only. So I didn't want that to be monotonous. So the IGNO books, the standard IGNO masters in political PSIR, I consulted them, then Andrew Haywood and OP Goba. These four I compressed into my notes, and these all things. Plus the Subraranjan ma'am's notes, which were the backbone, and others were the periphery. With all these things, I made my own some notes, and I could get one of the best marks last year in political science. In GS, see, there are a few basic which everyone will tell you that note making is the key to any civil service competitive exam. First of all, you need to understand what to make notes of, how to make notes, what to skip and what not to skip. For that, one has to do at least 3 revisions, and optimally 4 revisions. And you need to update your notes as well. If you are making in the first iteration, you will make 300 pages notes for say PSIR. In the second iteration, it will reduce down to 50 pages or 100 pages. And these 100 pages notes are the best way you can grasp or you can regain the knowledge at the 11th hour, or at very near to the exam. So we in around 8 to 10 hours every day for that year, then, or maybe 2 years. It took me 3 years. And then we make notes, then we refresh them, when we update them, because being a PSIR being almost a dynamic subject, we had to update them as well. So I updated them. I'll show my strategy one in PSIR. I'll say I made a list of books then the summary of the books, around 150 to 200 books, which are relevant in the political science. Then when I was answering the question, I quoted those books and the summaries. I had short notes of them. So that helped me a lot to get good marks in last year. Then in prelims, uh, that's the, I'll go shift to prelims now. See, prelims for forest is one of the toughest. For example, there are 1,000 seats in UPSC, CSC, Civil Service Exam, but there are just around 80 to 150 seats in forest services. And by the proportion, around 12 to 13 times the number of seats are taken out of prelims. That means around 10 to 15,000 for UPSC, CSC, and around 1,500, 1,200 are taken in forest. Just 1,200 out of that 6 to 8 lakh. That is really difficult. The first part is the toughest part of the forest services exam. So how to get very good marks in prelims, that is the biggest hurdle. For that, I have done a lot. First of all, I had a very good grasp on last year papers, 15 years. Then I made short notes of everything, the monthly magazines, whichever you take. I took Vision as my standard monthly magazine. I made around 2 pages on 2 pages short notes, which are very specific to prelims. Then for economy, environment, and science and tech, these are the 3 areas on which current based questions are asked most. And on that, I did 2 test series. Generally, in which we get in market. Generally, it is done one. And because they are the very dynamic areas, I tried to cover as much as I can, and I read notes a lot for them. This helped me to diversify my area of reach to cover the questions. Then you have to learn the art of guesswork. It's not the art; it's a background knowledge, big, huge knowledge. Because in UPSC, out of 100, you will, no one can, no matter how much you study. Beyond 40 to 90 or 80 questions, you do the guesswork based on some calculations, based on some knowledge you have. You may know one part of the question, other not. So you improvise on that by doing or by attempting last 15 years questions. The best guide for clearing UPSC is last 15 years questions and the short notes you make on. Everyone will tell you what are the notebooks used, what are the books. Everyone will get that on internet. But compressing these books into your short notes, then making your own notes out of current, then studying the areas from which you get the most questions in the last years, that all analysis and everything makes it all together, you will get good marks. This is how I tackled prelims.
There are 2 questions over here. For the political science students, because I guess the civil services syllabus that I come across was that, and that was the reason actually I shifted to the other subject in state civil services. The first thing is that political science has one of the lengthiest syllabus for the civil services, number one. Number two, the second question I'll say is that how to balance these 2 things, since you have already cracked the exam last year of the similar level, I'd say, and then how to balance between your work for the people who are actually opting the civil services and also are doing a job simultaneously. So these 2 questions: political science as a subject for the students who have chosen this as their optionals, how to tackle the subject, and what are the core areas that they have to look into. And second part is that how to balance between work and this preparations. How do they go with you, sir?
So, see, nowadays, in academy, there are around 39 to 40 people. I'll give you statistics. 2/3 of them were already in services, they were in services and qualified services. So now the dynamic of the UPS is shifting. It is becoming more and more unpredictable. So how much you study now, the level of unpredictability is now increasing. So if someone thinks that I'm in the job and I cannot qualify this is completely hoax. I have an example. I was surprised while I seeing the statistics on the first day of our class or the introductory class that 2/3 were in the services already in some group B or some states or private services. So even if you are already in services, any service, you can qualify. There is no bar on that. Provided you had to do something, you had to be very disciplined. First of all, you need to make a timetable. You need to adjust at least 4 to 6 hours of reading or studying into your timetable 24-hour shift. You do it, you manage it somehow. 4 to 6 hours are a prerequisite, first of all. Second thing you tell this, the second question was the political science as an optional is very, very diverse. See, it looks outside, it's quite diverse, but the moment you start studying, The moment you make short notes out of it, it becomes compressed. I have my friend with me who is now in IAS. He has qualified UPSC 3 times. He made of all political science, he made around 50 pages notes. He used to revise them. He was in IPS. He used to revise those 50 pages only, and he could get very good marks, 280 to 90. So it's not that you cannot. You have all you have to do is do a basic hard work, 4 to 6 hours or 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever you can give. Make short notes of the political science optional, and try to diversify the areas or the knowledge. Don't monetize on one source. For example, Subramanian. Try to add from these IGNO notes. Try to add from Opigaba or Andrew Hewitt on the notes only, Subramanian notes only, or try to make new notes. But you need to give time. See, you will take it will take you 1 or 2 years to clear civil services. Why it takes? Because it's this preparation from the start till you make your short notes, till you graph, till you take around 20 to 15 to 20 revisions of that. If you see history or other optionals, I don't think so political science is that vast. So it is more about management and more about how you tackle it, and more about how you make short notes and how you give yourself, how disciplined you are. There are distractions like mobile, social media, all need to be kept aside. This is how I would have done if I was in services.
Okay.
I was in services right away. I was ICS. I could qualify Indian Forest Services while I was in services. So I
And
did the same thing.
are there specific areas within the political science subject to look into and take critical care of, say for example, international relations, state politics, political philosophy, for that matters, the other parts of it, comparative politics or public administration even. Are there some areas that are asked in the civil service, and an aspirant has to actually take care of those areas in order to get through this paper?
See, nothing can be skipped. Whatever topics you are talking about, everything has to be read. But generally, people get good marks in paper one. Who are already in political science, they get even better marks. I also got last year out of 250, I got around 139 in paper one, which is quite good marks. In paper two, I got around 129. So generally, paper one is more scoring as compared to paper two. So focus on the one area which is very weak, paper two. Make good notes for that. Make crisp. I will give an example, a paper two, that is IR and comparative politics. For IR, there are newspaper cuttings. Just in 2 lines, for example, Sham Saran has said something. Just in 2 lines, you have what I did. I'll tell my strategy. There's India, Iran. I kept 4 5 pages or 3 pages for India, Iran. Then I wrote basic background of India-Iran relations, how it started, how it's going, what are in the 3 pages, start, middle, and the current contemporary. Then beyond that, I write some quotes by different scholars. In those 2 to 3 pages, India-Iran is fair enough covered. And if some new thing happens, I'll add that in the space I have kept. This is how I did the IR part for almost every important country like India, US, how the relations have been, what are the developments, how it has, for example, for defense relations. In 1992, something happened, then 99, then 2003, then 2005, 13, all those things with the name, I kept very short, crisp notes. So this is how I could revise things very quickly. This was my strategy for IR. And I'll say the Western political thought, you need to read very thoroughly. That is the background of political science. On that, everything is built later. Either IR maybe, or maybe comparative politics, or maybe ideologies. Everything is based on that. So in the most focused area, I will say Western political thought should be given due credence.
And is there something that we say that most of the aspirants who turn out to be officers in the final selection list, that everybody has an X factor or something unique to his preparations, or the smartness or the strategic kind of dimension? Is there just
nothing? No, not at all. This is all false. Why I could say this with so much degree of confidence? Because I was at a place where every year around 30 to 40 students around with me could qualify civil services. I couldn't see anything different in them. All they used to do is intelligent hard work and stay away from distractions as much as they can. Distractions doesn't mean you don't need. For my own example, I would say Sunday I kept all day for cricket or football or everything. I used to study just in the evening for 3 hours on Sunday. Every Sunday, just before exam, 15-20 days, I used to stop that. You have to balance work as well as your personal health or your education and personal health. That doesn't mean distraction is using mobile for unnecessarily for 3 hours every day, watching the reels, social media, everything. That you have to capital. I didn't use social media at all for 2.5 years till I could get selected last year. So yeah,
And
socialize less,
what's
have lesser friends for a while.
the problem with this with aspirants like from our district or from the Kashmir Valley or from Jammu and Kashmir part of the country is that they falter to actually get accommodated anywhere in Delhi because the level of exposure, because the level of the competitiveness, and because of the newness of things. They just get carried away with different things. How
Yes, sure.
then they join the coaching classes and they don't have a clue about that how to use the how to make most of the classes and how to choose a good coaching center for them. Is coaching important for that, and how to just get through this entire geographical and divide that a student or an aspirant from Kupwara, say for example, when he goes to Delhi, how you overcome that?
See, there are two questions. First of all, one getting digressed from the actual goals when he is shifting socially from Kashmir to Delhi. It's an all new atmosphere and he couldn't absorb the things. Second said, how is it necessary? The coaching is necessary. First question is, it is quite common. I have seen this beforehand that people getting digressed away. The thing here is, it is focus. For me, it has been my parents. I can my force that they are waiting for me. I cannot go this and that way. I have something to be done for them. They have had sleepless nights for me. So I wasting my time socializing unnecessarily, doing these things is instant amount of what I am doing. This is completely unacceptable. So keep some goals. For me, it was my parents. It can be your girlfriend or anyone you have. Okay, keep certain people as an X factor for you who keep you anchored on your goals. They'll stay as an anchor. The moment you try to digress, they'll keep you on the track. These are very common. Human mind is like this only. If you try to do repetitive things again and again and again, it gets stressed. It doesn't want you to do those things again. So there, what how I tackle these stress. It is basically stress and everything. I used to have good sports facilities. I used to avail them as well. I used to in the evening for half an hour to 1 hour. I used to go for badminton as well. This will not harm you. All you have to do study is 8 hours, max 10 hours. You have 24 hours at your place. So you have enough time to socialize, you have enough time to do everything. So do that in a very patterned manner.
And
Try to
with the,
be disciplined.
with the coaching part of it, I mean, most of the aspirants to consider this as a
Just
critical
give
thing.
just give a moment. Uh, yes, please. Just move. Just a moment. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'll start again. So be disciplined. That's it. Be disciplined as much as you can. Uh, Balance your life, your education with sports activities, with socialization. This is how you will contain the stress in your mind, because repetitive things to mind are quite boring. Second thing is that on the second question, I would say coaching is not necessary for GS. GS is quite basic. It's just 10th, 12th, 11th, history, economy, polity, and all. You can, if on your own, and there are multiple videos available on the internet, YouTube, and everywhere. They are free of cost. You can use them as well if you find any difficulty. So coaching for GS is not required. If someone has very fundamental problems, all these areas, then he can avail. But for optional, if it is not your background, for example, for me, it was civil engineering. I was doing political science. I had no idea about political science. I had to take coaching. Even for political science, I know people who didn't take coaching and could get better score than me. So it is individually, it depends upon individual. If he understands things, he should not take coaching. And for GS, I would say try your best not to go for coaching. For
And
optional, if you need, then only go ahead.
okay, that's part of the coaching, I guess. The last thing I
Yes.
would like to hear from you is that what how to overcome the amount of insecurity or the skepticism that's spun around civil services examination. Say, for example, you cannot throw the baby with the bath water. You cannot deny yourself the opportunity that you can do better than civil services in other dimensions of life or in other spaces of life. So how to delve into with that question?
See, I have told this again and again that civil services is not definition of career goals. One can be a good professor, one can be a lecturer, teacher, engineer, whatever he wants. See, there are limited seats, 700, 108 this year for Indian IFS. Everyone cannot get into it. That is the case. In competitive exams, there are limited number of seats. So one has to keep this in balance. Have a fallback option. I had qualified net JRF as well. If I couldn't qualify civil services, I could have done that. I had GATE, I had few other options ahead of me. Second thing is that social. I told you to balance things. To balance you, all you have to do is 8 hours study, 10 hours max. Beyond that, you will not regain whatever you have studied. So 10 hours is needed. Beyond that, you can all use your time for constructive work, whatever you
Uh,
are doing.
Thank you for joining us on a short notes, Iqbal Sab, and
Thank you very much for having us.
we seriously wish you all the best with whatever the endeavors you will be having, and we wish that you serve the state, you serve the country in whichever the capacity you could. Now that you are an officer,
Sure.
we hope that you keep inspiring us all, and we wish you all the best again for your
Thank you
entire
very much.
life ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening.